This is a very exciting day for Southern Indiana Sawmill. For those of you who have been following my channel for the last few months or even the last year, you know that last year I made a decision to sell my old WoodMizer Sawmill. And then if you were watching the videos, you'll see that I decided that I wanted to get back into the sawmill business. And so it's been a journey for us to get to this point and to get to where we can actually get to functioning a little bit more in the sawmill business again. So what you see behind me here is my brand new mill. And what is this? This is a WoodMizer. It's a 1999 year, which is also, to sort of date my age here for you all a little bit, is the year that I graduated high school. So it's a 1999 WoodMizer LT40 hydraulic, not super, it's a normal hydraulic. And what I love about this machine is that it has the diesel engine on it. Well, the model number is LT40 HDD33, so that's like a 33 horsepower diesel engine that runs the machine. So that's a pretty sweet power plant on top of this thing. And the machine only has about 1,700 hours on it. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Now here's the thing, there's some things that I'm not so super excited about. And so I'm gonna sort of walk through and explain with you some of the things that are quite honestly wrong with the machine. That some of these things I've already fixed since I've got it in the last week, and some of these things I'm just waiting on parts to come and probably a few tech support calls to get to where I can get this thing functioning 100%. Let's walk through the machine really quick. One of the first things that I noticed when I got the machine, and the first thing you always check, whether it's a car or whatever, any piece of machinery, if it has a battery, we check the battery. The negative battery terminal on this machine was beaten to death. I don't know, it looked like it had been hit by a hammer 1,000 times. And it wouldn't make a strong connection. And you need a strong connection, especially on these machines, because they can run up to 300 amps. And so I got a new one. Let me show you the old one. So there's the old one right there. You can see it's hollowed out, and it's just been beaten on just about every side. So that one needed to go. The second thing I noticed is in here you have a solenoid. Let me show you that real quick. So here's your solenoid right here. And basically what this does, it's basically just a big switch that sends power. In this case, this line sends a connection to the hydraulic copper strip that tells the machine that it's okay to run the hydraulics when you're running it. And this basically is the power for the entire machine. It's got two big fuses that are back here. So all of the power from the machine starts right here and routes through here. What they had done is, and I'll show you the old solenoid. So here's the old solenoid right here. You can see it doesn't look the greatest. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't work, because these things can look pretty bad. But when I tried to take the main nut off, it actually snapped the end of that off. Thankfully, from my old machine, I had a solenoid, so I replaced it. But even the old solenoid was not properly wired. And so I went through, and of course WoodMizer has instructions for everything you can get online, which is why they're such an awesome company. But I took and rewired this entire thing so that it's right. So the battery thing and the solenoid. Now there are a couple other things that I want to show you that need to be fixed before I can really run this machine full out. The control panel box has a common problem. If you talk to WoodMizer and their service reps that go from door to door, as it were, they will tell you that about 1 out of every 3 machines has this problem. And that problem is that a mouse will crawl up from the main electrical tube here, and they will get inside of the control box and make a nest. And this one had a gigantic mouse nest in it, and there's just all kinds of garbage in there that I'm going to have to clean. I'm going to have to take basically this entire box apart and clean the whole thing, make sure all the connections are really strong before I can proceed to the next part, which is a couple other wiring issues. So this machine has a few different features on it. As you can see, pretty much the whole panel is full except for this one, which is called the board return. And you can either have a manual board return or you can have an automatic one. This one has they all have a spot for an automatic one. But the board return is helpful if you're working with multiple people and you want to get the boards out the mill as fast as possible. This does have a laser sight button on it, but it's only the button, guys. The laser has been taken off and is long gone, and when you take this panel off, there's literally nothing behind there. It's literally just the button. This is for your power feed. Normally there's like a little, what do you call it? A little knob on there. for turning this so you're not going like this. And this is what controls the speed of your feed going back and forth. This is for the blade guide. So instead of going out there manually, the manual ones have a lever. This has a motor that runs the blade guide back and forth. Super duper handy because no log is exactly perfectly straight. And you want your blade guide within an inch of the wood all times at cutting. So that's really helpful when you're cutting. This is the debarker mechanism. It's like a circular blade, and it goes in front of the bandsaw blade and clears all the junk and dirt out so that the bandsaw blade doesn't take the brunt of any dirt and rocks and stuff like that. It's a real lifesaver. I wouldn't saw without one unless you really like going through a lot of blades. Lastly is this button here, and I call this the big trouble switch because it causes big troubles. What it is, it's an auto clutch. Now the normal machines just have a big lever that you pull, and the lever is on and off. Very simple, pure mechanical. Well, this introduces an electrical component into it. When it works, it's like the most handy thing ever. You just flip a switch and you have your blade is engaged and you're running along, and you're not wearing your arm out pulling the lever back and forth all day. The downside is it's got a lot of sensors and wires and things like that, and so this is one thing that I need to get working perfectly. This is actually the wrong switch. The switch should operate like this, right? And right now it operates like this. If you can see that, it's returning to center. And that's because the guys I got it from needed to have this working, and this was the switch that they got to put on there. So a few things like that. This runs your back and forth, forward and reverse, and then this runs your height adjustment for the head of the sawmill. So all that works. These are actually two brand new switches on the left and right from when I got the machine. This is the one thing that's really concerning me about this machine at this point. There is a solenoid. This pin that you can see here when the machine is running is in, and then it sends an electrical connection when you turn the key off, and it goes in, and there's a little shut-off switch inside of the engine. Well, I know this doesn't work. Thankfully, I have another one of these that they gave to me when they sold me the mill, and unfortunately it didn't have the adapter plug to come with it. So I already have another adapter plug ordered from Kubota, and they are going to send me that, much cheaper than buying the entire thing altogether. But then also the glow plugs. When you turn the switch, the glow plug light does not come on. And I'm not exactly sure what this is. This is another called a WoodMizer after I get all of the main control box unit figured out and cleaned out and whatnot. Then it's a call to them to figure out how to get the glow plugs working. And so these are the two main things with the engine. Right now, if you want to turn the machine off, you get a screwdriver and you go back into here and you poke a little button, if you will, inside of that engine, and that's how you turn off the engine. You know, that's a little janky, I would say, and so I need to get that working so that it's a little better. And then I got to figure out what's going on here with the relay. The one that is on the machines now is a 6-pin relay. This appears to only have 3 locations on it, and so I really just need to get in there and figure out what the heck I got to do to wire this up. And after it's wired, I'll know if it's really working or not. Glow plugs and stuff like that can get to be pretty expensive. They're about $33, $34 a pop. So that'd be $130 to do all 4 of them. There's also a fuse link that should be in here, a 50 amp fuse link, and I do not see the fuse link. So there's a few things that I got to figure out there with that. But the machine does run. The engine does turn on. The glow plugs don't do anything though. So, you know, if it's cold, you really got to crank, 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 crank. One other thing, the gas tank on this machine is not the normal gas tank. And what they did is they took basically a tank that they had off of a boat or something like that, and they rigged it up so that the diesel fuel would run through that. Also, there's a water tank that normally sits up here, and the tank isn't in bad shape, and it kind of has this retrofit valve, and this might actually be the original valve from the WoodMizer on the 99 model. But when I took it off, I noticed there was a small crack in the back of this, and so you really don't want cracks in them and stuff like that. Mostly if you're doing a portable job like that, you know, like I tend to do a lot of, because you'll get water all over the highway, and all you need is one bad incident when you're out on the road, and all of a sudden you don't have lube for your sawmill, and you're pretty much stuck at that point. You could always get like a 5-gallon bucket, I guess, and rig it up, or do something like that, stick a hose in it, I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can rig stuff up, isn't there? That's what we're finding out in this. But yeah, I got a new one of these on order. These are pretty cheap. I got a new assembly for the fuel on order. That's pretty cheap, relatively speaking. Well, what else could there be, you're saying? Well, I'll just show you a couple more things, and these other things are not big deals, but they're things just to get it really tip-top. This is a little more difficult to see, but the WoodMizer, of course, runs on a cantilever action on the mast, and there's pads inside of here. They actually run on both sides of the machine here, and those pads eventually start to wear out, especially if it's not properly aligned, they'll wear out. And this one has really too big of a gap, too big of a clearance right now, and so I got new pads ordered. That's not too difficult to fix, really. I mean, you unscrew it, you slide the new pads in. You do have to support the sawmill head, but I have a means of doing that, so those will get changed out. The reason I'm showing you this is because normally what you'll see is a contact strip, a big copper contact strip that goes on here. Now, I've already removed that. And the reason I've done that is because the copper in there was really corroded, so much so that when you ran the mill back to make the connection, you could not get the hydraulics to engage. And so I've already got that taken out. I'm working on that up in the shop. With the copper strip, you can just turn it around though and use the other side for a while. And that other side will probably last, honestly, for 5 to 7 years. So I'm rigging that up. That's really a simple fix, and I have a new plastic piece coming in because the old plastic piece did have a little bit of damage on it. I probably could have ran the machine with that damaged plastic piece because it was really just holding the copper. But this will make it like brand new when it's all done. This is a hydraulic tensioning mechanism used for putting tension on the sawmill blade, and it works pretty easy. This screw just screws in, and as you continue to screw that, when it grabs the blade, when the wheel grabs the blade, you'll see the tension come up, and you want to be in the yellow to orange area when you're sawing. Well, all you really have to do to maintain this is to put grease in here and occasionally do a little procedure where you fill this up with automatic transmission fluid. Well, while I was doing that, I took this piece out here. Now, there is supposed to be a 1/2-inch steel ball that fits inside of this area, and it's not in here, and it's definitely not in there. And so at some point somebody got into this and the 1/2-inch steel ball was lost. Now, here where I live in southern Indiana, for whatever reason, it's impossible to find that 1/2-inch steel ball. So it's $1 from WoodMizer. I got one of those on the way, and that's really the last thing that I can think of that I need to be looking at on this machine. So let's talk for a second about the goods, the bads, the uglies of this particular sawmill, and why I'm confident that I can go forward running this mill in the future. I have to put my glasses on. It's a beautiful day here in southern Indiana, and it's also very sunny, which is very different from yesterday when it rained like literally every half hour. I'd work, it would rain. I'd work, it would rain. Today's just a beautiful day. All right, so let's talk about this WoodMizer. This is about the point in time when most people will make a statement or ask a question in the order of, boy, I really hope that you got a good deal on that mill because it looks like it has a lot of problems. A couple thoughts on that. So here's the first one. The first one is I didn't know, honestly, exactly what I was getting when I got this mill. I looked at it quickly. It was in a barn. The barn was kind of dark. And all I saw was a big diesel engine and an LT40 hydraulic. And my mouth started drooling, right? It wasn't really a compulsive buy though, because I, as you all know, I've been looking for mills for really the last couple months. And this one popped up, and it popped up on Facebook Marketplace, and it was in Eastern Kentucky. So if you were looking at a WoodMizer hydraulic diesel, and it was in Eastern Kentucky, yeah, I'm the guy that got that. So sorry if I beat you to it, but I may have spared you, but time will tell. But here's the good things about this mill, and I want to start, actually no, let's start with the bad, and then we'll finish it out with the good. How does that sound? We'll end on a positive note. Here's the bad of it. The bad of it is this, is that I didn't know exactly what I was getting into when I got this mill. And you know what? When you buy anything used, whether it's a car or a mill or whatever, you never really know what you're getting into, do you? Until you get all the way into it. You don't know that you might have a blown head gasket, right? Or it might be close to happening or something like that. You might not know that you need new bearings in your wheels because it might run fine when you test drive it. Well, I got this machine home, and let me tell you, and I'll show you a picture here while I'm telling this little story. I had my 9-year-old daughter with me, and I asked about the tires on this WoodMizer. And I said, look, I got a 3.5-hour drive to get home. Do you think that the tires on this mill are going to make it all the way home? And the guy's like, oh yeah, sure it will. They're brand new tires. And I said, okay. Well, I got there, and the trailer package wasn't even on it yet. And I thought they were going to put the trailer on it, because they had the trailer sitting there in the barn. They took it off and made it stationary. Well, so while I'm there, we have to put the trailer back on it. And I'd done that before, and so I knew how to do that rather quickly. We got it on there, and we're putting the tires on it, right? The brand new tires. And I asked one of the guys there, I say, well, this tire looks like it has a bit of dry rot. It has some cracking on it, right? And he says, oh yeah, well, they've been sitting in the barn for a couple years, right? So I'm like, well then are they brand new tires, or are they dry rotted and have been sitting around? I said, do you think I'm gonna make it home in these tires? Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. So me and my 9-year-old daughter are headed home that day. Supposed to be a simple one-day trip there and back. We get about 25 miles away from where we're going. We're going down the interstate about 65 miles an hour. All of a sudden I hear boom! And the tire just, I mean, it just exploded. So, you know, look at this picture right here, and you'll see the tire as it was when it exploded on the highway. And so the rest of that night was quite an experience. I called my insurance company. I tried to get a tow. I tried to find a way to get the mill to a place where we could repair it, because I didn't have a spare tire. And you know, I was really kicking myself because I have a spare tire for a WoodMizer, for a trailer here at my house. And the whole time in the back of my mind, and maybe I should listen to God a little bit more in these things, but it was right in the back of my mind there, was saying, you need to bring that spare tire with you. And if I would have just put the other tire on it, and perhaps we would have made it home. Well, long story short, we waited for about 3 hours for a tow that would come and help tow the trailer, and he actually towed it up on the back of his. And so there's the picture there of him towing the sawmill to a repair shop, and I got 1 brand new rim and 2 new tires. 1, the rim was pretty damaged that the tire blew on. 2, it was a different size. There's a 14-inch rim and a 15-inch rim on the mill. 2 different tires. One of them very dry rotted. So I got 2 new tires and 2 of the same size rims. So that was the very first thing that happened on the day that I was bringing the mill home. And when I was buying it, of course, all of the good things were emphasized. Well, it's got brand new belts on here. We had a WoodMizer tech guy come out and look at it. We spent $800 on him getting everything working right. But boy, I don't know when that was. Was that 5 years ago that the tech was out there? Was it 2 years ago? I mean, was it as old as the tires when the guy was out there? And I knew that there were a few issues with it, but I didn't quite contemplate the fact that, for example, the glow plug light issue would have to be worked on. Or that the solenoid did not have the male connector, and so I would have to make 4 phone calls to find a connector, which I'm really glad I found a connector, because the connector's $10 and the whole kit is like $165. So I'm really glad that I found a connector. But a lot of this stuff, some of it is really simple to fix and really easy, and some of it is more complex and requires more phone calls and stuff like that. So that's the bad. Here's the good. Now here's the thing, it does run, it does cut, and you can cut with it, but it's not perfect, okay? And depending where our standards are at, I like my stuff to be perfect, or as perfect as possible. And so that's what I'm doing with the mill. I'm getting it to where I can run it perfectly. Here's the other good things. For those of you who have watched my videos before, you know I'm big on family, you know I'm big on faith, and this machine really helps with the family and with faith. Now, let me do that in kind of a humorous way. It helps with the family. All my children are young, and when they're growing up, they see Daddy running this kind of stuff, and they see Daddy working hard, and they see Daddy making an honest living. And to me, that's a very important trait. That kids grow up and they see a daddy working, that they see a mommy and a daddy working, and that they see positive things coming out of that work. They see good attitudes developed. You know, Daddy isn't coming down here and cursing the machine every 5 minutes. You know, Daddy's coming down here, and even when it's hard, we are relying on God to give us strength to work and to get through the day. This is life. And it strengthens faith in a couple of ways. One, when you're working for yourself, it requires a lot of faith to continue going day to day, not always knowing what your business is like the next day. Very unlike punching a clock. Secondly, It builds faith because there's so many problems. And nothing builds faith like problems. All this stuff that I have to fix, you know, am I going to find the plug for this thing? Am I going to be able to figure out the glow plug issue? Is there going to be business for me after I get all this stuff fixed? All of these things require deep faith to continue running and to maintain a positive attitude while we do it. So those are really the great benefits, and I'm sure that that falls into all of the fields that you all work in, no matter what you do. If you're in construction, if you work metal, if you work wood, even if you're sitting behind a desk and you're working for yourself doing that. Even if you're not working for yourself, it requires faith to get through life. And so for me and my life, and for Southern Indiana Sawmill, this is where that relationship happens. And so I'm really, really happy. I'm really happy to be back into the sawmill business and to be back into cutting. And I'm really happy, quite honestly, to be able to make some more videos for you all of me cutting wood. I know that for many of you, as it relates to the YouTube page anyhow, this is what you loved watching, was watching me do this kind of stuff. And so there's going to be more of that to come. You're going to have to bear with me for a couple weeks though, at least, until I can get this machine up and running like I want it to run. Boy, and then we're going to cut a lot of wood. We're going to have a lot of fun cutting a lot of logs. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I got me a brand new WoodMizer LT40 hydraulic diesel, and I can hardly wait to get it running perfect, and then we're just going to have a whole bunch of fun. Hey guys, I just want to thank you one more time for watching my video here on Southern Indiana Sawmill. If you're not a subscriber, would you please go ahead and hit that subscribe button in the lower corner there, and go ahead and like it, share it, do whatever you want to do with it, and even hit that bell to get notifications of all the new videos that will come out. Friends, we're going to journey on this Southern Indiana Sawmill crazy life adventure together here, and you're going to get opportunities to watch me do all kinds of stuff. And so I look forward to doing that with you. I hope you look forward to doing it with me. And we're going to continue going. Guys, thank you for watching. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later.